Bow your heads. Our Father in heaven, we're so grateful for the sacrifices that your Son, Jesus Christ, had made for us that we just celebrated so that we have the ability to have you watch over us, help us to make the right decisions for those that we represent in this county. We're also grateful for the military who are currently over in the Middle East and that continue to fight in support for our freedoms. So again, that we're able to come and meet as a democratic organization as a county council. Please watch over our firefighters, military, first responders, and police, everybody that works so hard every day to take care of us. We say these things in Jesus' name, amen. All right, so the first item for tonight is approving the minutes from the March 3rd meeting. Thank you, Lisa, as always, for getting those out. There are no questions regarding the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve them?
So moved.
Thank you, Brandon. Do I have a second? Second. Thank you, Steve. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, so we'll go ahead and we'll start with the additionals. We'll start off with the coroner. We'll go to the coroner first and then EMA next. Good evening.
Okay, basically, I just need to ask for an additional to add to a line under the, where the deputies and myself are paid. We didn't have a training budget put in that was supposed to have been put in by the previous coroner. To my understanding, it had been done. I did not see that when I went to pay for training this year, so I'm asking to add in another line under there for training and asking for $4,000 into that training. We've had to use our part-time coroner line that we have so far to pay for some training that I've already had to pay out this year. I had two that went to coroner's training back in February that were told that they would be paid for those hours where they were in training. So that kind of depleted that line a little bit, but the $4,000 in that additional line will take care of, I believe, any additional training that would be needed for the year and hopefully the rest of the part-time coroner line.
If you pulled out the part-time coroner's pay to cover the training previously, is there still enough money in that account for the rest of the year, or will there be a possibility you come back?
I hope so. It's so unpredictable.
Yeah.
It really, truly is. As far as training itself, yes, I think we'll have enough for the training. As far as being able to pay the part-time coroner, that just kind of depends on how busy we are.
And how are you doing with the part-time coroners? Do you have enough of them? Are you pretty well staffed?
Oh, yes, I've got plenty of help.
Okay.
We've got plenty of help, and it's been running very well.
Any other questions for Hillary? All right, if not, do I have a motion to approve the additional for $4,000 for training?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Todd. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Vicki. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Hillary.
Thank you.
EMA.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening.
So tonight, I'll do a little bit of an explanation on what led up to the request for an additional. Like I spoke with you, Seth, a couple months ago, we got a list from the state on how many radio identifications were issued to this county. And at that point, there were 488. And once we started going through these radios and seeing what was accounted for, what worked, what didn't work, the radios that we use in this room, our EOC, our Emergency Operations Center, was found that they no longer are operable. And I had a technician come in and look into them, and he said that they haven't been working since 2012. They haven't had their updates, they haven't been used, and so forth. So, you know, we just had a small tornado a month ago, and if we'd have had anything larger than what we had and would have had to open the EOC and activate, we'd have had no radio communications. So I've done some figures. I've got a couple of different quotes. The quote that I'm going to present to you tonight for the request for the additional is actually the higher end. I'm still waiting on a third quote to come in, and unfortunately it didn't come in before this, and like Mr. Wicker and I spoke, talk about this number, and if we don't use that completely, then it'd go back to whatever line. But, so there's 2 radios in that box over there that do not work. We have a third that is in my office that's, what the state calls end of life, and it will be out of service in the next year or so. The radios that I'm looking to purchase 3 Kenwood 800 megahertz, 700 megahertz tri-band radios. And the reason that I'm going with the tri-band radio is that if we do absolutely have to open the EOC and our county highway is involved, those individuals will be able to be spoken with or talked to on these radios. As of right now, we wouldn't be able to. They're on their own little system, and we would be able to talk to them if they're involved in the EOC operation. UHF, VHF, I kind of like to be able to consider those as a backup channel. We currently don't use the UHF, VHF, except for my understanding for dispatching fire and EMS, where they get their tones set off. So if our systems do go down, we'll be able to use those radios to communicate to our fire and EMS as well. So my request for an additional this evening is for $36,411.05. And like I stated, ladies and gentlemen, this is the highest end of the request because that's the one that I've got first. So this will be for additional new radios for the EOC.
John, if this went forward here, what's the availability for these? Are they going to be able to get on this soon? Or 'cause
yes.
I was as shocked as Seth's facial expression when he,
Yes.
when you said they didn't work.
And
that's why
this
I was like,
isn't just for the radios themselves. It's for them to come in and put on all new antennas and new wiring and all of the stuff on the roof that we would need as well. It's not just the additional radios.
Yeah.
But yes, from my understanding, that would be something that would move rather quickly.
Because as of right now, if the EOC had to be put together here, we would
Doesn't
not
exist.
have, or,
Yeah.
they would not have the radios.
We would have handheld radios to make it work.
We had an EMA meeting yesterday, and that's when that information came up, and we were all a little shocked.
No more shocked than I was.
Yeah, that this was
So
not.
where exactly are the radios and who will have them?
In that locked box right there are 2 of
Yeah.
them, and the other radios are in my office. And the
If you
thing,
have an emergency, where are they and who are you communicating with these radios?
if we have to start up with the EOC is in this actual room. Okay, that's why we have the televisions, we have the radios and so forth. And we're communicating back and forth to our police, fire, and EMS, our highway departments, if need be, depending on what. It's an acronym. It's the ESFs. There's 15 ESFs, and it depends on who's involved in that disaster. So if we had that tornado that hit in March, if that would have been larger, or say it would have hit the town of Veracruz, we would have had multiple stakeholders in this room, police, fire, EMS, members of the hospital, members of the ham radio community, and that's how we would communicate with those individuals, not just through our dispatch center.
But like the sheriff's department and the police department say, they all have radios.
Right. And this,
Why do we need another set? I'm trying to understand.
okay, I'm just gonna say it, I'm a little bit ignorant on the idea, because I'm still getting all this information as a new emergency manager. But the EOC is set up for emergency center operations, and this one is actually small. We only have 3 radios compared to others that I have seen and been in throughout different counties. But it's for when we all come together and we're sitting here dealing with the emergencies, dealing with the natural disasters, and we're communicating with those first responders outside of these 4 walls. I probably didn't help answer your question much.
So explain a disaster that we would need these radios that we don't already have duplicate radios through the sheriff's department or police departments. Explain that to us. So how that would work.
Anything you can throw in here to help me with?
I'm sorry, I was checking messages on my phone.
What's the use and the need for the EOC?
For the operations center?
Yeah,
So,
and the radios.
obviously, so we can communicate with him. He's the expert in services. If we set up command centers and we need, services through the state and those types of things for us to be able to communicate with them,
If there's a command center and you're in the room and he's in the room, you guys have radios, why do we need a duplicate set of other radios?
Well, the whole thing came up as, back here, they were outdated. I don't know if you caught that
Yeah,
part of it.
those don't work at all.
They don't work at
haven't
all.
worked
It's
since
in the
2012.
box that's for our, if this becomes the command center. And that's where it's got a little confusing, is who would need the
Yeah, so-
radios.
You're talking specifically these radios?
Yeah, the EOC radios, there's two in here, and there's one in my office that's on a to-go box, to where it can be picked up and
Sometimes
gone.
your operations center could be somewhat close to the scene, or it could be in a larger scale thing. If it was in Bluffton, it could be, this provides a room. This was kind of an area that was designated through EMA to be able to use this room. I know you're a part of the EMA stuff, to where we could communicate, but trying to talk on one radio is kind of hard. We all have different channels as well, so to have different radios to be able to communicate, he might be communicating.
Again, who else has these radios?
They're just like our police radios.
Okay?
Each
So
department
if
has
you
their own.
already are represented in this room and you guys can communicate to each other,
I have one person in this room with 12 different department heads communicating on one radio. I probably, we all would, most of us in the room hopefully would all have radios.
that's what I'm saying. If you already have those radios, why are we buying more radios?
He's not buying them for us.
I know he's not buying for you, but if you're represented in the room, and the fire department's in the room, or whoever else comes in an emergency, or whatever, depending on the type of emergency, you guys are already communicating with each other every day.
But they also may not be in this room. If a natural disaster happens and it affects this building, then we need to be able to take radios and go, and we would go someplace totally.
Again, they have radios.
I understand, sir.
I'm trying to understand why we need more.
John, do the radios always stay in that box? So
yes.
these that we're talking about here would replace the ones in there,
Yes.
and they just stay there? It's
And then the other ones are in my
they're a
office.
backup? Is that what they're technically?
They're able to go.
And if a tornado hits this building and they're all here, then what? You can't use the radios anyhow.
That's what the others are set up to be on the go for.
That's what your portable radios.
Correct.
Yeah. That we already have.
That are end of life. The radios that we have for EMA are end of life. They're not phase two compatible, which by 2029, 2030 is what the state's been telling me, that any radio in the state that's not phase two compatible will be junk, plain and simple. So,
Is there something, is there a force at the state or federal level that's pushing you to do this?
yeah, it's all in EOC operations manuals. I could try to find one.
What I'm asking is, I think what Steve's saying is if you're sitting in the command center with a rep, with the sheriff, somebody from the city police department, an EMS guy and the fire department, all those people already have ways to communicate with their team. What value would these radios bring?
These radios would be able to talk to the state IDHS, our liaisons, our other districts, as well as surrounding EMAs. Because if we have a natural disaster, it's going to be an open borders mutual aid request. So it's all about communications to the outside as well.
Now, you did say something, John, about rewiring of the building for antenna. So right now, if there was an emergency because this place is not wired correctly, would the current radios even work?
The current radios.
I
that
mean,
we
the current radios, like I'm looking at the sheriff.
Yeah,
Would the
like
sheriff's
sheriff's
radio even work in here?
Updated.
Yes, because the tower for the main hub is in the city dispatch.
Okay,
The radios that are here are the ones that have an antenna on the top of this building, and they already don't.
so if we got new radios,
Gotta get-
they wouldn't work in here because there's not an antenna in here.
Correct.
And theirs work because they're programmed to the main antenna, which is over by the police department or whatever.
Correct.
Okay.
So we've been making it without these radios since 2012?
That's
Is that
my
what you're saying?
understanding. That's exactly the facial expression I made when I found out, when I had a service technician come in.
Yeah. I mean, kind of like with Steve, to piggyback on him, we've been making it without him for 14 years.
But it only takes one natural disaster to wish that we had them.
Yeah,
And we had a
Yeah.
natural disaster. Luckily enough, it just wasn't very big,
yeah.
so.
Can I ask you a question? Are you asking for portables too for yourself? To
Uh,
replace old ones?
Three mobiles and two portables, all set up on tri-band, so they can be set up as a go, that if this building is
Three
affected.
portables, those are the two mobiles.
Correct.
So, yes, I agree, there's certain things that we that's the part about his job that was probably prior to, was ignored in a lot of ways, was we didn't maintain the equipment that we had. You know, that didn't fall under me, it didn't fall under, it fell under EMA. And I think, you know, John's just trying to get those things going. I mean, obviously the funding portion of it, have I ever used those radios? No. Have we ever had a command center in here? We've done drills in here. We do drills every year through EMA. We do a disaster drill. We've used this room. We train to be able to do that. Now, just because we haven't used it, doesn't mean there's a need. It stinks that they've been sitting in that cabinet and haven't been used since 2012, but could we operate just solely off portables in this room? Yes. Do you need a mobile? Don't know.
Well, and everybody has cell phones as well, so.
There are different ways of communicating, but the portables are a must, in my opinion. But whether you guys choose to
So,
update those or not, that's part of the,
so currently, the highway department would not have a radio at all?
They have their own.
They have their own,
Their
okay,
own
okay,
frequency.
their own frequency, okay.
That's why I picked.
It's
a
just here's where
tri-band. Yeah.
where the problem is, so.
I picked a tri-band radio so that we could sit in this room and talk to every entity that we have in this county on a radio.
each agency has different frequencies. Like, John doesn't have all of our frequencies in the current radios he has. Because, you know, we have TAC channels and stuff where we're doing operations that are, you know.
Public don't need to listen to.
Yeah, they don't have access to those things.
And you would have that access with new radios, or
Not,
would
not,
not?
not the sheriff and police channels, no.
So,
That's, they're like tactical stuff.
my point is, he might have different channels on there that communicate with the state and with other things that are related to EMA that we probably don't even have. My point is all of us have portable radios, but we don't necessarily talk.
Can you give us an instance that you need to talk to somebody at the state that would have to be on one of these radios?
I am required to talk to the state every month as a radio check-in, showing that we are still here. If I don't do those radio check-ins, they shut us down. Every time we travel,
What do you mean by that? Shut you down?
we have a system, it's called Javari, and it's a web-based thing. And if we don't literally get on that website and check in monthly, they'll lock out our account. So then we have to go through all the rigmarole of getting reallocated to that system. And then it's additional time and training and so forth. So it's easier just to follow the rules, do your monthly check-ins. Same thing with the radios. We do the VHF and the 800 megahertz radio checks every month. And then anytime we cross our borders, we're on the radios. We talk to our district liaison. If there is matter of fact, the day of the tornado hit, he was on his radio to me. And that's, I mean, he's just from another county, but we still have to use the state channels. So, we talk on the state quite frequently, actually.
John, what's the life expectancies of these radios? Are they, I mean, are we,
10
they're
to
not ready to
15
turn over
10
into
to
another
15
type?
years is what I'm being told. I am not a radio expert by no means. I can only go what the salespeople tell me.
Sure.
And you probably,
It's kind of like cell phones. I mean, we had to replace our radios, I don't know, what was it, 8 years ago? or
Yeah.
whatever. Rick Velasquez.
I just hate to
at that
ha-
point wrote a grant, and we got all new radios.
That was going to be my next question. Are there any grant funds out there to cover this stuff?
none at this time, because I've looked there first.
Okay.
And I've had people at the state
The
also.
radio people themselves control that. It's just like your Microsoft or your cell phones. At some point, there's a life expectancy. They move on to a new generation, and they say that it's not that you can't use them, they're just not going to provide support for them anymore. And so if they break, you can't fix them because they're not going to provide support for them. So it is fortunate. The fortunate part is there is a lot longer life expectancy in these radios. Thank God, because they're not cheap. So it's just we've had to go through. I mean, I've been in it 24 years, and I think we've been through probably 3 different sets of radios in my career. So
So you would use these to communicate with other emergency management teams predominantly, not necessarily the sheriff's department. Is
Well,
that true or not?
Yes and no. Yes and no. Locally, yes. If we have a natural disaster or a large-scale emergency, yes, and we activate this EOC, then we're going to be talking in county. But anytime state agency comes in or a mutual aiding next door neighbor county, this is the radios that we use to talk on them with.
So you don't do you or presently have the ability to communicate to the Ossian Fire Department now?
Yes.
Okay, and the Sheriff's Department
Yes.
now? Okay. But you wouldn't have the ability to communicate with your counterpart in Huntington County?
Correct.
Or the state.
Correct. I don't have the means to sit here and talk to the county highway right now either. And that's one of our entities.
But you would with
Yes,
this
sir.
device?
Yes, sir.
Because they have a radio, but you don't? Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay.
Just for clarification, when you say you are now checking in with the state, how are you doing that?
With the one
Using
radio that I have
So you're using one of the radios currently?
that is not set up with the frequencies like I'm requesting.
And is that the one you said would be obsolete at the end of the year, roughly?
Not at the end of this year, but end of 28, 9, whenever the state goes to the phase 2 stuff.
Okay.
The newer updates, like Sheriff was talking about.
And these you're looking at are phase 2?
Yes, sir. Yeah, they won't sell anything that's not phase 2 at this point.
Do you have a written proposal from whoever's selling the radios to you that we could get a copy of?
Yeah, I can email that to you if you'd like. I don't have it in, this is just a brochure on the radios that we're looking at. The proposal is in an email, and I can print that.
And do you think, John, that you have your other quotes coming up that you don't have yet? I would like to see maybe a breakdown too of what the wiring costs are versus what the handhelds are. Is there a way to get that information, then we could just make this decision? I don't think waiting a month, if we've waited 12 years or whatever it's been, that we could get some more information out to everybody, and then we could make a decision at the May meeting. Would that be okay?
Sure.
All right.
Is it a possibility just to wait until budget time?
We could decide that as a
We
group.
could wait till budget time, but somebody better pray to the Lord that nothing ever happens in this county. So,
Yeah.
all right, thank you.
All right, thanks, John. All right, Steve, if you want to come up, it's opioid restricted and unrestricted funds.
Evening.
Good evening.
I'm not sure how much detail you guys would like, but I think Lisa's passed out a form that was submitted to the commissioners for the recommendation from our committee. Just kind of some summary of the backstory, and I'll try not to bore you too much. This committee was created by the commissioners, consisting of myself, Commissioner Vanover, Jenny Broderick from Parkview or Park Center, Andy Yergler, who runs Tri-Recovery and the Resilient House, Detective Greer of the Wells County Sheriff's Department, Madison Hake of the Community Corrections Department, and then also the late Dr. Hott as well. We were formed to make recommendations to the commissioners as to how to exercise the opiate settlement funds, both restricted and unrestricted. I will say we followed guidance of CJI, which was to treat the funds in the same way, both restricted and unrestricted. Unrestricted funds did not have a lot of criteria on them. Restricted funds have quite a bit and have to go for specific purposes. And there's pages and pages of what those purposes are. They did provide us some nice, here's some things you should not do with the funds, which was helpful, and I can provide that if you all would like. But there were some pretty specific criteria on things not to do with the funds as far as if you intend to use them in the manner that restricted funds are guided. We went in front of the commissioners on the 17th of February with our recommendations. Those recommendations were approved at that time, and we are seeking approval now at this point in front of council. Just as some further information, there will be additional funds coming forward each year till 2039, I believe. I might be mistaken there. So I'll probably be back with some more. So we won't have the same scale of funds that we had in this time. We were able to approve quite a bit, but the future monies will be much smaller. But we intend to request the commissioners to open another cycle late in 2026 as well to fund into 2027.
So out of curiosity, the ones that received your denial for funding, was it communicated with each of those organizations as to why they did not receive funding? And therefore, if because there'll be more money next year, if they apply next year, they have a better chance of meeting that criteria?
Sure. In some ways, you know, on other committees, similar committees I've been on, for instance, Wells County Foundation, we've had policies to not explain denials. And part of the reason for that is to explain a denial, you're comparing to another agency, and then someone will have to get into the weeds of you know, information from another organization because you're competing ultimately. You know, what I try to do is communicate to agencies, here are, you know, were the criteria, you know, please review those, please see where yours maybe didn't fit. Not everyone that was denied was because it didn't fit. I mean, we had, you know, substantially, you know, a number of requests well over the amount we were able to fund. Some simply were just decisions we made. Others were because we didn't think they fit.
And you said commissioners already,
Commissioners
that's the
did
first
approve, yes.
line is they approving these. Okay. Any other questions? If not, do I have a motion? I'll go ahead and do them both together if that's all right. Motion to approve the opioid restricted fund for $240,414 and the unrestricted for $42,500.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Scott. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Brian. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Nate, if you're here, the next one is the 20.205 bridge. Looks like it's a PE services request for $317,958.
Yes. This is for Bridge 72 preliminary engineering services. This is a federal project that's just
Okay.
starting. So that's the amount of the PE contract through NDOT, and that'll be reimbursed at 80%.
Which bridge is that again, 72?
That's 300 west over Stites Ditch, just south of 400 south.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions? If not, do I have a motion to approve the additional for Bridge 72 for $317,958?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Todd. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Vicky. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, Nate.
There's another.
Oh, there is another one?
Yep. The other one is actually for a project.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, the Meridian Road.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was a community crossings project last fall. So basically, we had a late appropriation for that last year. And essentially, I knew what the total for the project was going to be. We were under budget, so I only appropriated what the actual payment to the contractor was, not thinking that the remaining funds, a portion of that were to go back to NDOT. So we actually end up spending more because we had to give those funds back, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So I didn't appropriate the contract award, I only appropriated the contract payment. So the remaining balance of just shy of 36,000 needs to be appropriated just to make things balance out.
Because community crossings grants, they give us the entire
Amount.
funding up front.
Right, and then we have to put it back,
Yes.
reimburse them back for what's unspent.
Yes.
That was just another
Federal
run.
grants, they
So it's
reimburse
just
us
money
for that.
that's, okay. So just money that's owed back to them.
Yep.
Right, do I have a motion to approve the Meridian Road local match of $35,899.76?
Moved. Second.
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Steve. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, now, thank you, Nate. Appreciate it. Jenny, if you want to come on up.
Hello.
Jenny, good evening.
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you very much for supporting the CASA program, because without the county support, we definitely could not serve the children in need of services in our county. We just couldn't do it. So thank you very much. The other thing I want to say is, to me anyway, it's kind of confusing on the appropriation because we've only received half of the state's portion of our grant. We'll receive the other half in June, and we've received the whole amount from the county. So that was confusing to me as I put it together, but hopefully that makes sense to you all. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
So these are essentially just appropriating the grant money.
Right.
So, well, first off, Jenny, I appreciate all that CASA does in this community, and it's nice that the county can support it. Does anyone have any questions for Jenny? If not, do I have a motion to approve the Wells County CASA grant?
So moved.
Thank you, Brian. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Brian. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Thanks for coming in. All right, we already did the meeting. Okay, we just have a couple transfers. We have a, for the commissioners, let me grab it here. We have a transfer from ADA coordinator for $263.75 to official bonds for $263.75. They're not a commissioner here, but it seems like a small enough amount. Do you know what that's?
We have to get bonds for all the elected officials.
Okay, so that's what it's, okay.
Yeah. A little more than what we
Okay.
budgeted.
Do I have a motion to go ahead and approve the commissioner's request for a transfer from ADA coordinator to official bonds?
I'll make,
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Vicky. Thank you, Steve. All in favor?
aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so the next one is economic development lit funds going from the capital development fund to the animal shelter. You may all recall at the end of last year, there was, I think, 40,000 that was budgeted initially for animal shelter until we made some progress. I've been in a number of those meetings, so has Commissioner Stringer. And just to give everybody kind of an update and why this request has come through is that there now has been a board set up where the county does have representation on that board to ensure that the county's needs are being met by the animal shelter. They also have hired a new director, which is a plus, and have got it pretty well staffed where it needs to be to serve not just, the complaint initially from the commissioners was it was more focused on city and not county. So according to Jeff and everything that's been going on via the commissioners as well, they're pretty comfortable going ahead and reinstating some of this funding now to get through the end of the year, and it will be a year by year to make sure that this continues to serve the county along with the city. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm not on the board, so I may defer any really deep questions, but if anybody has any, but the commissioners and Mayor Minzer has done a good job with communicating about how things have been changing. Still have some ordinances we're working through to match up the county and city to the extent we can, but it's enough progress it made sense to renew funding. So if
I'll
those-
make a motion to,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you, Brian. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Brian. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. Sheriff Holliday, you are up next.
Just so it's known, I'm not asking for any money
Yet.
yet.
Yeah.
For this meeting. Let's see. Inmate reporting. As of this afternoon, we had 55 inmates in jail. 28 of those are pretrial circuit, 7 pretrial superior, 15 DOC, and 0 F6. I gave you 3 sheets, one being the monthly report of activity for March, and also the monthly income generated as far as current through March of this year is on there. Nothing out of the ordinary that I saw in the reporting. I also gave you the courthouse reporting for March. I've been continually, even though I come quarterly, I've been sending those to you guys monthly, so those have been pretty interesting. We've kind of, over time, expanded the things that we've kind of shown you that come through the courthouse. The total number of people, I don't know if I explained this before, the commissioners did purchase a new walk-through body scanner for us, and that actually tracks the number of people that walk through the courthouse, so it's kind of a nice little feature. You'll probably see over the next month, with it being election time, that the courthouse is going to be a little busier. Early voting started today, so I know that traffic through there is going to be picked up, and the number of courts, and even hearing today, I know even just for the month of November, there was 2 warrants that were picked up through court security. I heard one today that we picked up that had a court hearing from another county, and they had a warrant, so they were able to detain them, and we picked them up and took them into custody. So that's been working very well. On that, lastly, I have given you the quarterly required commissary reporting. So that should include January, February, and March. Nothing major as far as expenditures out of there. If there's any questions on any of those, I'd feel free to answer any of those.
Back to the courthouse, that 2543 number, that was just for the 22 days in March?
Yep. So, there's various people. You know, there's a lot of people that go to the second floor for clerks, auditor, those type of things, but when we do courts, there's a lot of people that show up, family members, those type of things for courts, so there's a lot of traffic that comes through there, and is getting scanned. And that new scanner is working very well. That old one was ancient and old and required us to do a lot of hand scanning and everything else, and this one is so much better, and appreciate the commissioners purchasing that for us. So the only other 2 updates I have, building related, still working with Commissioner Stringer in Superior to extend further on that sewer issue that we were working with. The kitchen's been completed and has been back operational for quite some time now, so we're looking at the bigger plan of the rest of the jail that includes more of the cell blocks and those type of things. So that's obviously a bigger project that I know Jeff is working with Superior, so we can kind of get an idea of what that would cost and be able to present that to you down the road. So as soon as I get something on that, I'll let everybody know. And just last thing I had a note for, our staffing. We are fully staffed in deputies and in the jail.
Good. Congratulations.
So we just hired our last deputy a few weeks ago. He just started, young man, Nash Hoffman. So we have one at the academy who graduates in the end of this month. So he'll be back doing training on the road, and Nash will go to the academy in May, and he will be our last one. So
Wonderful. Yeah.
Knock on.
so we've
When's the
been
last time you've been fully funded or fully staffed in both?
It's been, last year we had 3 people retire, so it's been a really tough year and a half. And then if you remember, we had a couple on medical leave. So at one point we were down 5 deputies, which was a huge strain. A lot of people pulling overtime and working a lot of extra shifts. So that's been a long time in the waiting. It feels like that's all we've done for the last year is hire people. But the jail's doing really well. We've got a really good crew in there, and we'd been close. We were just one away from hiring and getting the jail fully staffed. We hate to say it out loud, because the minute we do, then,
Jinxed.
Yeah, we'll jinx ourselves in this job, but you never know. But we're happy. We got a lot of good people, and they're doing really well, and just figured you'd like to know that.
Are you guys still assisting Ossian in any way?
No. So, I mean, we'll back them up on calls, but we don't do any more of the coverage stuff, which has helped. I mean, we have continued to do the CHIRP grant for the Operation Pullover. We've been successfully continued to do that this year. We've had really good success. I did recently. I'd like to give you guys some stats on that. I know there's no cost to you guys. I think you guys put the money up front, and then they pay it back at 100%. But I'm gonna try and put together some stats for you
nice
on
tea.
what we've seen on that. We've done the school bus stuff and the seatbelt and the OWI enforcement was the three major functions, and we're on our second year of doing that. That runs through October this year. So I'd like to see those stats before we renew it for the next year. But we've had a really good participation from the deputies, and I even seen it from my house last week. A school bus went by my house, and there was one of our sheriff cars following the school bus, and that's part of what the program is, making sure people ain't blowing by the stop arms and those type of things. So it's been really good. The schools appreciated that, and the school bus drivers have really appreciated it. So I think it's a good thing, and the state's willing to pay for it. We're willing to take advantage of it and improve things in the community. So,
All right, well, thank you, Sheriff.
any questions?
Nope, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Mr. President, may I approach the council?
Sure.
This is the quote that Mr. Huggins requested. You'll see on probably page 2 or 3 that it's only got from one of the additional radios. So you have to multiply that by 2. And again, this is just the most expensive of the ones that I've received. And on a bright side, if this county was to have lost all of our radios at this point, it'd be almost $4 million being requested instead of $36,000 to replace all the radios in this county. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, Jessica, if you want to come on up. Good evening.
Hi,
Oh,
thanks for having me back. Just wanted to come before you guys to give you another just brief update on what I'm doing day to day, kind of where we're at so far through April, the beginning of April, and then just leave it open for questions if you guys have anything for me to follow up with. So this is a little bit brief, and again, I talk fast, so if I start going too quick, slow me down. Okay, so wanted to give you a quick update on new business leads, some active kind of prospects. Some of them are still a little bit anonymous. Some of them are still anonymous. I can't give names, but I can give you just a general idea of what we're working with. But Ossian Industrial Park is having some growth right now. So Trusted Manufacturing is going to go through an expansion. That is something I can publicly say. That's pretty neat. They have been working through some ideas of what they wanted to do, and they've settled on it. And so they'll be breaking ground on on an addition, and then also some improvements to their existing facility. That'll come with about 16 employees, potentially 20, but that's kind of where they're at with the new employee count. Working on subdividing a lot in the industrial park that we do have a tenant for.
Talking about Ossian.
Yeah, but it's smaller, kind of a cut shop type of business. Really neat, though. Really glad to have them. I think they'll be a really nice addition to Ossian. Not a large employment pool, which is also great, but what they do is neat, and it'll bring a good amount of traffic that we do want, something a little bit different in that area. So that's kind of neat. Also working on some conversations for a new spec building, and can just continually sending out the lots that we do have available to any and all site selectors who request, keeping it updated on our Zoom prospector. All is good there, just kind of everything's normal and kind of in motion for that. Ossian Downtown does have the revitalized building now. That's public. Napa building will come down. The Krugerberg auction building will come down. And so basically right next to, not touching Hireleys, but close to Hireleys to that where Napa is will come down. That'll be redeveloped. Really neat development idea. There was something in the paper about that. That's just really a general concept of what it might look like. A few tweaks will be happening to that building, but we're excited for that. They'll have some retail space on the bottom, apartments, things like that.
You won't have any road closures or anything like that during that construction, will you? Or do you know?
I don't know. I don't know. I'd love to say no, but all things construction go friggin' wonky, and I don't want to be responsible for saying something I don't know. I'm just excited to see. So June is potentially demo, so it's coming. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, very excited about that. Some other business expansions, you guys, Almco should be wrapping up here this summer. We've known about that here for a while. If you haven't driven out there, go by. It's pretty neat. It's a nice structure. It's a good addition. They're bringing new jobs, lots of new capital investment. We're excited for that one. So be happy to see that one kind of finish up in 26. AAM is now Dowk, if you haven't heard about that. They are going through a really large, mostly equipment upgrade type thing. There'll be no new construction necessarily, but they're doing some neat things inside their walls. So more to come on that, but that's neat, and we are happy that they're here. They're putting some significant capital investment into that building. Bluffton Rubber, I'm sure you guys have all seen that. That's one of our really old, long-standing companies. They are doing some really neat things and renovating some spaces and just sort of making efficiency moves inside those buildings. So really, really good stuff. We've had BR&E visits already this year. We've had 3. We have 3 scheduled in May. 4 scheduled in May. I think 4 scheduled in September, and that's as far out as we've gotten so far. I've done 3 of those, 13 other business visits. So I continue to meet with at least 4 to 5 businesses a month and just get in there and see what they need, what, kind of what their needs are, what they expect kind of their year will look like, if they're having any challenges that we can sort of address. So good things are coming on that. At least getting into those businesses has been, I will say that has been one of the best parts about this position, is just getting in there and talking with them and figuring out what their needs are. So any questions on what's going on so far in terms of attraction, expansion? No? So we have roughly 3 wins, about 29 jobs created, and right now we're about 60+ million in investment. So some really significant investments. Workforce, I continue to work with our local schools. I'm in and out of those schools pretty often. I work really closely with Area 18, which is Eric Muncie. We're continually just trying to make sure that we're, again, bridging that gap between what private sector needs and what our educators need. Both of them speak different languages. Educators are really good at what they do, and then the private sector is really good at what they do, but sometimes we don't quite talk about, what those workforce needs are. With our students, and they're students. I mean, they're not in the workforce yet. We want them to be. We want them to be ready when they graduate, but we want them to know what's happening here in Wells County, like what kind of careers are available here, what do those careers pay, what are those benefits, do they have advancement opportunities with additional skilling. Most of the businesses in Wells County fund additional upskilling. I mean, we are so fortunate to have businesses that will pay for them to continue to go to school. A lot of people don't realize that, even though I feel like I'm always saying that and out there just like repeating that. And the foundation gives grants, all sorts of things for those students who are not maybe college bound, but we're still working at getting that out there. So if you ever have any questions about, what's, maybe it's not even the career path, but maybe potentially the education path they might want to pursue, whether that's a trade, let me know. I'm happy to get those resources out to whoever needs them. But yeah, I'm always in the schools, always with Area 18, working on those CTE classes. One of the big situations that we'll run into here again soon, and this is for Bluffton, but is the electrical educator. It is difficult to get that educator in there. They can work in the private sector and have a very different type of income. So it's a stretch to pull somebody in outside of that in electrical trades and get them inside the school. Also, a lot of people are fearful of teaching. I mean, teaching is not necessarily for everyone, although I disagree. I think it is. I think everybody can be a teacher. We just gotta get you in front of those students. They're not as scary as they might think. They're actually great. And I'm a really big proponent of these students want to work. They want to do the things, but they want to know what they're doing. They do not want to walk into a facility, into a career, because they don't even think it's a career. They don't want to walk into a job and not know who they're working with, who they're working for, and they want to know what purpose they have. So I just think we've got some flips to make in the way that we train those students and the way that we welcome them when they come in. And really good things, I think, are on the horizon for the students, at least here in Wells County. I can't speak for everybody, but I'm gonna speak about the ones I have here. And if you come to any of the conversations that we have, like with AWMA, Adams Wells Manufacturing, we do convocations. We're out there, HR representatives from Wells County are out there talking to our students all the time about hiring, like soft skills. It's like just look them in the eye, you know, shake their hands. We talk about those things a lot, but it takes practice. It's not easy for them to just walk in and, you know, talk to someone they don't know. But those things are being practiced. Those things are happening in our schools. So if you are one of those people sitting back going, we just need to get in front of our students, we are. We really, really are. So good things are on the horizon there. Training programs, I am working tirelessly on some ideas about post-secondary education. And I think I can tie this in with the needs for the electrical teacher at Bluffton. And again, there are other schools that need trades teachers, but for right now, we know we're sort of limping along with the educators we have there now. The city of Bluffton has been really gracious to allow one of their electricians to be a teacher this year, and they've basically missed half a day of work for the entire school year while they're going into a classroom that they're not normally used to teaching in, and they're teaching our students the electrical trades, right? So I think that potentially we could try to find an educator that would also serve the purpose for post-secondary education. I think there's some work to be done on that, but that's being done. So working a lot on trying to figure out how to do that, whether it's grants through the Don Wood Foundation, our foundation, private sector. I just think that there's a lot of avenues that we can get together to figure out a solution for that. Let me think. Housing, it'd be good. Lots and lots of additions are happening right now. We got the 2 Garmin projects here in Bluffton, the Biggs residential single-family house addition going in Ossian. We're working on working with a developer on it's like 190 units of townhome apartment rentals, not for ownership, and then another potential 190 in Ossian for townhomes and apartments. So we are really like hammering the developers and just helping them figure out opportunities that exist here in Wells County. Ultimately, it's their decision, and the town and the county and the city's decision where they want to put those developments, because a lot of infrastructure is needed for those. But those conversations are happening. There's nobody's saying no, just no. We're saying, let's sit down, let's get around the table, let's figure out what that looks like. So really, really encouraged about potential housing here in Wells County. Very, very encouraged for that. Community amenities. So all of our parks, all of our communities need programming. We can't just build homes and say, come live here and love it here. We have to build homes, show them what we have to offer here. So just as the year goes on, you may see or hear some more development on, you know, what is needed, whether that's Ossian Revitalization, Bluffton Parks, Bluffton Now. Just know that those organizations are working really hard to bring programming. They are volunteer organizations. They seek funding through fundraisers. I'm sure you've seen a bunch of those events go around. Just know that these people are working. We meet monthly. There's a lot of ideas flowing. A lot of grants are being written, or at least we're planning for some pretty good-sized grants to keep the momentum moving for increased parks, or just attractions at parks, increased event planning. So just know, when those things come about, and if we're out hammering and asking for fundraising and things like that, that's what makes this place awesome, because we are able to put on a tremendous amount of events without a department that's paid to do that. So just know that a lot of surrounding counties that have a lot of events going on, they have paid individuals on their staff that plan those events. We are a group of volunteers, so keep that in mind. Grants, for me at least, just wanted to give you a quick update on what I applied for last year. This is really just like a general idea, but in around 2025, I think I received, and a couple of these were just operating funds that were given to me to use how I wish to use them. They weren't necessarily grants that I had to comply with, but were roughly $40,000 in 2025 that I applied for and received. In 26, we're at $26,000 so far. I'm pumped for that number because obviously I'm pretty much on course for meeting or exceeding last year. These are funds, again, that I'm applying for. Some of them are operating. I don't want to call them gifts, but some of them are just gifts from organizations that say, here, utilize this in your operating fund for what you think makes the most sense, which I'm grateful for, but also some of them are grants, which I do have to comply with and make sure that we're following through and compliance-wise, meeting the needs of what I said we were going to do with those funds. But a lot is going on with those right now. I did receive one that will come out here soon. I will publicly thank the foundation for that. It's a $15,500 grant, and it is for data. So we will be, I'm really excited for this. We'll be collecting data as we can on events that we're already putting on. So the goal for this collection is to know like where our money is going. Again, I mentioned we're fundraising organizations, Bluffton Now, Austin Revitalization, and there are more. These are just a few. But are these events that we're putting on and we're seeking funds for, are they bringing people to the community? Where are they coming from? How long are they staying? And how much money are they spending? The reason we want to know that is I want to know the economic impact. Are these events worth putting on at, a higher level? Like, should we go harder? Should we invite more people? Who should we be bringing in? Who should we be attracting? I want to make sure that these organizations who are volunteering their time are putting their time in wisely, and we're putting on quality events that are bringing people here and ultimately leaving an economic impact. So really excited about that. You'll hear more about that as the year goes on. I sought that grant out, and it's going to be used for parks, the whole county, parks, tourism, everybody. So more to come on that. I'm really excited about that. And then just one last thing here, just about our partnership with the Northeast Indiana Partnership. That's a regional partnership that I think you guys might be familiar with. And then the IEDC, we're receiving quite a few leads from both of those organizations right now. So site readiness, I think I came to you guys last year, or might have been in January, I can't remember, January, to talk about my goals for this year, and site readiness was one of them. I think we spent some significant time talking about that. That is kind of a prime goal for me, is just to catalog what we have available, willing landowners if they're there, infrastructure, how close it is, the proximity to that infrastructure, what sites make the most sense for us to go after. That has not slowed down. I am busy with that, and we are receiving a ton of leads that I am thankful that I am able to respond on. Some we can't, and that's okay. We are not meant for everyone, and everyone is not meant for us, and that's totally fine. But we are able to, thanks to the work that's been going into this, we are able to respond on several leads that last year we were not able to respond on, because we do have some connections with some landowners now that have some willingness for me to list their site. So wanted to give you guys a quick update on that too. So I touched on housing, touched on community events. What else did I miss? Grants. What am I missing? I know there's something you guys want to know. Questions?
Any interest from data centers?
Those come out a lot. They come out a lot. They're really just interested in anybody who has large amount of acreage, but none of that is really what we have. So yeah, nope, we're good on that.
About carbon pipeline?
Yeah, sometimes there's requests for that. It just depends on how close we are to natural gas pipelines and where they want to be. Okay. Yep, and then gotta have a willing landowner for any of that stuff. And so if that comes up, we'll investigate what that looks like for the community that they're seeking to be in, but nothing at this point that would be worthy of additional conversation.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, no problem.
Is this building still available in Austin?
It is. So that one's tough because that one is just close enough to Allen County, Southwest Allen, where there are very similar spec buildings, almost exactly the same. In fact, the developer's the same in some of those cases. And Allen wins a lot. GFW is very aggressive with their incentives, so, yeah.
Do you keep track of job openings in the county?
I don't know exactly how many are open, no. I wouldn't know that off the top of my head. No, I do not know that off the top of my head. I know our unemployment numbers, but I do not know like how many active job seekers are out there versus how many specific openings.
What's our unemployment rate at the moment?
2.9. Yep.
You mentioned vocational,
Post-secondary education.
Area 18.
Oh, yeah, CTE.
So I know you're doing the CDL program.
Yeah.
And we have students in there.
Yep.
Are you doing 3 this year?
3 students, do you mean?
Students.
There are more than 3 students.
I knew you had, your grant
Less
was
than
for
7.
5.
Yeah, no, I was hoping for 10, or 8 to 10. I think we ended up with 6, potentially.
Well, I think that's going very well, too.
Yeah.
I also, you mentioned Ossian and Bluffton a lot. Are you doing anything down the southern part of the county?
Yeah. Yeah. When they don't have land listed necessarily for me to put out there to list for them. I've met with a couple of our different farmers to talk about agritourism. That's one of the conversations we've had. Audrey and I have had conversations. We brought Aaron Pribble into that. Agritourism is a whole nother kind of conversation I didn't bring up. We've talked about that in our tourism board. There's probably more room for growth in Wells County, in the southern part of our county, could really capitalize on that, but those are new businesses that they need to launch, and so I'm here to support attraction and expansion, but I definitely don't want to be creating business models for anybody. But man, it's prime for that down there. Dash 90, they're doing amazing work down there trying to get activity. We get tourists coming in. When I say tourists, they're over 30 miles away, so they could be from Allen County. Those are still people coming from out of county into our county to, again, spend time here, spend money here, leaving an economic impact. But man, is there room for growth down there. Yep.
Any other questions for Jessica? Thank you for the amazing job you're doing, Jessica. We appreciate it.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Guys.
Yep. Appreciate it. Next up, Purdue Extension annual report. Bill? What's your birthday? We should have sung to you at the beginning. Is that 40?
Yeah.
40?
I turned 39, huh?
Yeah.
Well, good evening, everybody. First off, I just want to say thank you for the support that council provides for our Purdue Extension office here in Wells County. We did have our annual meeting and dinner in the end of February, along with the Soil and Water Conservation District and the Rock Creek Conservancy District, where we passed out these handouts. These are basically a brief summary of activities that we had in 2025. So that was our annual report for that one. But the first page kind of lists our all the staff on there. We do have a couple changes on there as far as the staffing statewide goes. Angela Abbott has been appointed as the state director. In the past several years, she's been an interim director for the Purdue Extension Service. And then also our office is fully staffed now. We have 2 administrative assistants, Mackenzie Steele and Megan Schwartz. So we've got both of those positions filled in our county. So this is I kind of reviewed this report at our annual meeting, but there's a couple of kind of interesting things that kind of stuck out in my mind when I was passing it out. It goes into the 4 different program areas that we work with in the Purdue Extension, the agriculture and natural resources, which is my area, health and human sciences, which is Molly's area, 4-H and youth development, which is Anya Albach, who's not able to be here with us tonight, and then also community development, which I have a small portion of my appointment is in community development. But some of the interesting things, interesting trivia that I always like to review is, what do you think the most most popular 4-H project is in Wells County? The most number of participants? It's not livestock, actually. Shooting sports.
Oh.
Archery is our biggest project. 97, well, this was last year's numbers. 97 kids signed up for archery last year. Rabbits was second with 95, and swine was third with 87. And then
I wonder if there's some credit to Mr. Carter at because Southern Wells has got a big archery program at the school, and just curious if Mr. Carter,
it may have had something to do
encourages
with it. I
that.
don't know how many,
I
Go
think
ahead.
it's beyond just Southern Wells, because
Yeah.
the other 2 schools don't have it, so.
And they still have a lot of participation in it as well.
Well, they can be in the 4-H archery.
Yeah, it's been a big project for several years, before they had it at Southern Wells, but, and then in the, what they call the static projects, the projects that you usually see in the expo hall during the fair, arts and crafts is the biggest project with 96 participants. And then foods, the different foods projects, 85 members, and construction and architectural replicas is 80 members. So those are some of the biggest groups, but, these kind of, and this isn't obviously everything we do in here, but we tried to highlight, and we try to do a little variety, so every year doesn't look like it's the same, but we just tried to highlight some of the bigger projects, or what we felt like were some of the impactful projects we work with here in Wells County. The other report that we gave you is our statewide report from campus, just a little bit slicker than our report, not much. But anyway, I did want to point out on the inside front page, there's a report from the Dean of Agriculture, the School of Agriculture, Bernie Engel, and from Angie Abbott, our Director of Extension. And it mentions in there, and in the middle paragraph, we're going through, so Purdue Extension is going through a transformation. We're transitioning into regional, regional work rather than county-based work for some of our assignments. And they mentioned that a little bit in there. We don't have specific blueprints yet, to be honest, but it's going to be, we're going to transition into that in 2027. So in 2026, this year, they're actually doing a couple pilot projects, pilot regions around the state. The 6 counties directly south of us are one of those pilot areas. So Blackford, Jay, Delaware, Randolph, Wayne, and Henry counties. Those 6 counties are a region, and they're kind of trying out a new format. Within those 6 counties, for example, they only have 3 agriculture educators. And then each one of those agriculture educators it goes back and forth between a couple counties just to have an in-person thing there, but then they've also assigned specialty areas. One of them is a specialist in livestock, one covers crops questions, and then the other one covers natural resources questions. So within that 6-county area, that's their specialty area where they do programming, but then they also handle some of the local county stuff by jumping back and forth. But they naturally came into that staffing arrangement because there were some openings, and they just let those openings unfilled so that they could kind of try out this new format. Eventually, the whole state is going to be broken into regions, and I don't know how many, or how many counties are going to be in each region. It's probably going to be different depending on where it is, and what specialty areas are going to be in those regions. We don't know that yet. We expect to be given an update anytime now, because some counties have to start turning in their budget requests in May. I think Whitley County's budget request is due in May, so they're going to have to know what they're requesting for 2027, what's going to be in their contractual agreement. We don't know that for us yet. So there's that's kind of I'm just kind of giving you a heads up, but there's going to be some more discussion as we go into the summer with what our contractual agreement, we're actually within Area 11, which is Adams, Wells, and Huntington County, all the way to the north. We're the smallest county by population, but our contractual agreement is the same amount as some of the much larger counties in our area. So I think, this is just my thinking, I think our contractual agreement is actually going to be a lower amount. Those numbers, the way they ranked all those contractual agreements, they broke them into categories in the mid-80s, and they haven't been updated since then. And so there's been a lot of changes around the state as far as populations and assessed values and the numbers of farms and some of the formulas that they use to break the counties into groups like that, as far as determining what their contractual agreements would look like. So there will be some changes coming up, and we'll be giving you more information as we get it, and probably maybe some changes in our contractual agreement for 2027, but we don't know that yet. So I don't know if anybody has any questions.
Sounds good. Anything else? All right. Well, thank you so much for your update and for coming in.
Well,
Appreciate
one
all
thing
you
I
guys
did
do.
want to mention is that, yeah, they did find out from some of these transformations that 4-H is obviously the most popular program that we offer, and they're guaranteeing that there's going to be 4-H maintained in every county. I mean, that's not something that they're even considering changing much at all, so.
Good.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Audrey?
thanks for having me. So I'm here with the Wells County Convention and Visitor Commission, and I did post up there our mission, and then our current serving members that are serving on the commission. So you can always reach out to them for any questions. We do have public meetings. Our one for April is tomorrow morning. So if you ever need information, feel free to reach out to any of them or to me. Just a quick overview of the Innkeepers collections so far. We did end 2025 rather rough, $72,034. Still, it was okay. It was a drop from what we had really hoped with our budget at $80,000. And we do have some findings that maybe there was reasons for that. I know there's been change in ownership for one of the lodgings. We haven't collected in a couple months on one of them, so that does hurt us. And then for this year, we're tracking really good. We've talked to some lodging and Airbnb owners. We do have one of our board members on there. Richard is the current manager at the Comfort Inn north of town, and he's been very encouraged to see our construction work. Thanks to all of the activity that's going on in our community, the construction workers have been booked there, and we're very happy with that. So that's been helping us as far as those numbers go. So we'd like to see that continue. I've talked to Jessica just about how to better serve those crews that come in, or if they're potentially looking, if they're working around the area, maybe even southern Allen County, if there's a way that we can win those over to our lodgings, if we can work together and do that and provide them resources. So that's how we're tracking right now. You can see the spreadsheets on the back for the numbers and the year over year and year to date revenue change. And I'll ask if you have any questions on that before I move into what we've been working on this first quarter.
Curiosity, you said the one hotel or whatever, you haven't collected in 2 months from them? Is that because they haven't had?
Not exact months. I think it's quite a couple more than that, but.
Is that because they haven't had people staying there, or why is it not being collected, I guess?
Just a change in ownership. So I think the new owner is getting it.
So the old owner wasn't forwarding them the payments, or, 'cause it seems like that they're collecting that tax from the people who are staying there.
Yes.
That there would be, to me, I don't know legally how they can withhold for months payments. So,
There is, what do you call that? Like an interest on when they do turn it in.
Yeah.
But
It seems like a slippery slope if they're collecting taxes and not.
That's usually, I
forwarding
mean,
them.
I talk to other people who track their innkeepers, and there's really no way for, like, I can't personally go in and do anything about it. And so that's where our budgets get kind of, you know, you may or may not have what you project to receive based on the numbers and the RevPAR of the rooms and if they're remitting them.
Yeah.
So I do agree with you.
Does the Indiana Department of Revenue follow that? Are they?
Yes, and I will say there's been quite like a significant change just since 2020. So State Board of Accounts has been cracking down hard in this area. So I do have people that I talk to at State Board of Accounts that specialize in innkeepers, and they can help guide us on any of that if it becomes a bigger problem. But
Like any other agency, it'll take them 6 months to catch up.
yeah. So far,
will catch up eventually.
I've talked to other counties that have had remitted funds back from like a year or two, and they've had to actually go forward with their county attorney or do something like that. But I don't think that should be an issue for us. It's just probably getting acclimated with the new ownership, so.
And the good news is we're ahead of last year's receipts.
Yeah.
In spite of.
Not collecting those revenues.
Right, and that is.
That's good.
So we're encouraged by that for sure.
Yep.
So it's looking good for this year. Any other questions on the current innkeepers collections so far? So for quarter one so far, like I said, we're working conservatively within our 70K budget, which we had to decrease from 2025 just due to those. We kind of expected it to be a shorter collection year, but that's fine. We're still doing a lot with what we are able to bring in, which we could have never done before. So we're still able to put out our marketing. I'll get to that in a second, but I just attended the Indiana Tourism Association conference just this past March. That was fantastic. That's a great time to rub shoulders with other counties in our throughout the state, see what they're doing, what they're hurting in, what they're doing well in, how we can support each other as a region too. I'm part of the East Region Tourism Association, our commission is, and so we're able to help support other counties in our region when we're doing marketing efforts. So that was great, learned a lot. We do have legislative updates on any changes that may be going on with the tax as well, so we get updated about that. Right now, we're hoping to tackle wayfinding for our visitor assets. I've put into motion a couple different opportunities that weren't already in place just to direct visitors to our Obachi State Park that are outside of a certain radius. We've gotten into the weeds now where we're able to see, okay, are we able to place signage at certain highway points? Are these gonna be state funded or locally funded? So we're selecting those different assets that can be or can't be funded with state. So we're trying to figure out what that's gonna look like, what it can, if it will cost us, and if we need to pursue grants or any sort of funding to implement those. So some are already in play, some are being looked at, and I've talked to NDOT, Mr. Schmidt is his name. We've kept in contact for the past month just about finding vendors that will fit, that will work with NDOT, because they've had this come up so many times where they pay the vendor, they pay for design fees, they pay for all the material, they get to the point where NDOT says, no, it's actually not compatible with what we need. So we don't want to get to that point. We want to be ahead of the game in that. And I've been talking to Huntington as well. They're, I think at some point, going to put in welcome to Huntington signs at some point. And so I wanted to know kind of what their route was for taking that. So we've been talking. Marketing avenues, we do put out quarterly publications or advertising in Travel Indiana and Indianapolis Monthly. We were able to go in the spring and summer, which is a big distribution for them. So if you flip through those publications, you'll be able to see an advertisement of Wells County in there, which is really good for visibility. Indianapolis Monthly actually goes outside the state as well. So you'll see those in Chicago and Cincinnati and some southern Michigan as well. We'll be distributing our annual visitor guides that are more regionally focused. So those are the ones that we produce here, thanks to the news banner. And we're hoping to increase visitor experience resources. So these look like focusing on certain assets, like our wedding venues, if somebody's planning a wedding in the county. We have our updated maps that will be going out in the visitor's guide and for personal use. And then informational binders for lodging owners. Those are little binders that you can flip through if you're an Airbnb owner or your front desk concierge. You can look through that and get easy access to what we have in Wells County. And then, like I mentioned, the construction work travel resources, I think that's an area that we can definitely reach. And if you flip the page, just some new upcoming events. Wells County Creative Arts Council is hosting Red Skelton Tribute, which we want to support them in that and bringing in visitors. That's a historical Indiana comedic icon. So that's a really cool event. Stouffer's Farms is bringing in a new revival market. And then we're going to have a downtown Iris Day that I think Bluffton now is taking the reins on that. But kind of piggybacking off of what Jessica was talking about, agritourism, Stauffer Farms has been very, very good in the last 2 to 3 years, ramping up that event, which we would throw in that agritourism category. And I do think that Southern Wells is prime area for more of that. So like she mentioned, we've been in discussion. NEI Local Food Week, if you've heard of that, Northeast Indiana Local Food Network is an organization in Allen County and surrounding the Northeast Indiana 11 counties. And they put on a week every year to connect local growers to foodies, people who like food, who like supporting farmers, local growers. And that's an event that we would like to support. And I know Economic Development in the past has supported that from here in Wells County. And we hope to continue to do that. I think that so far Broxenberry, if anybody's familiar with that, and the River Farm, there might have been one other participant, but they've been involved in that week as well. So I agree with her. That is a conversation that we've been excitedly talking about. The 2024 Visitor Economy Impact Report was received this past February, and if you'd like to view that, we do have it up on our website, so you can either pull it up on that code or type in visitwellscounty.com, and then I think it's in the About section. You can look that up there. It is quite extended. It's a big packet, so if you have any questions after you look through and you want to talk that over, feel free to reach out. And then I did include in here the Britain Marketing Firm reports that we had finished in 2025. We had put a lot of our funding towards just a baseline of pushing out marketing, if you remember that. And so I wanted to put the final results there for you to read at any time. And like Jessica mentioned, I'm so thankful for her to be able to pursue Datify and be able to get that data, because I think it's going to be extremely valuable for so many organizations to be able to see where our visitors are coming from, where the money's getting spent, how we can improve the efficiency of how we support our visitors. So I'm very excited to be able to have access to utilizing that. So looking forward to working with her on that after after I come back. I wasn't sure if I was going to make it tonight, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Thank you. Any other questions about what we've been working on so far in Q1 or upcoming pursuits?
Any other questions for Audrey?
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much for
Thank you so
coming,
much.
and good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks. I just have one quick miscellaneous thing. It doesn't need action now, but it probably will be at our May meeting, is that there is, with the whole new still playoff on Senate Bill 1 and some of the changes, there's the ability to create what's called a MUST. It's the Municipal Unit Strategic Task Force. There's going to be a conversation next Wednesday. I know I'm going to attend the meeting. I think Brandon might be as well. It's a member of council and your city municipal leader to figure out a way between the two to work out your local income tax coming up. It's non-binding, so just because you get together, you may not end up coming up with any agreement in the end. The only obvious municipality we have that would apply would be the city of Bluffton. Scott Mincer reached out to me, and obviously it would make sense to probably at least have a formal conversation. Again, I'll pass out what the ordinance says to everybody. I'm sorry, ordinance, what was passed by the state. Take a look at it, and probably at our next meeting in May, we need to vote whether or not we want to create that task force. So just to put on everybody's radar. The last one is, Lisa gave out the 2027 budget dates to everybody. They're in your packet. Thank you for getting out ahead of that, because I know schedules get booked up quickly. But, so if anybody has any issues, I think you emailed the dates out previously anyway, so they should all be good for everybody, hopefully. So if not, do I have a motion to conclude the meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Scott. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Vicky. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Of course, there's none.